When I think of the 2010s, I mainly think of
It all seems so disposable, right?
I feel like there was a lot of quality TV, a lot of appointment TV that I eventually found out about.
Trump, unfortunately, but I think also like Netflix.
So I feel like a very definitive moment from this decade was the Lost finale, which kind of set up all of these expectations for bad finales to come.
You know, I was eating a burrito during the Lost finale, so I think I enjoyed it more than most people. It's a lot more sort of sweeping in a positive way than I think it gets credit for. People tend to just shit on the fact that everybody went and hugged in a church and then disappeared in a blinding white light. If I gotta go, that seems like a pretty good way.
A good television show is a self-perpetuating engine. How I Met Your Mother was like that for certain parts of its run, but it also made this humongous mistake at the beginning of the series where it pulls the rug out from under the viewer as they're watching that pilot and they expect that they're watching the story of Ted falling in love with the mother and the mother is going to be Robin.
Because that, kids, is the true story of how I met your Aunt Robin.
Pulls the rug out from under you. It says, no, the mother is not Robin. You're gonna meet the mother along the way.
I remember getting pissed off. It was an earlier episode, I think that final season, when she's talking about not being at her kid's wedding, and somebody's like, well, why wouldn't the mother be at the kid's wedding? And you're like, oh, they're gonna kill the mother.
She's a very lovely character. We get to know her across the entire final season. And then the fucking show drops this bomb on you where it's like, oh, the mother dies.
I haven't seen it, but I heard people really hated it.
That's the reason I started watching it, because everybody was talking about it.
The first time I saw The Red Wedding, and actually the last time I saw The Red Wedding, I was sitting in my home in Brooklyn, and I remember it ended, and I turned to my significant other, and they looked at me and just went, oh no.
As my husband likes to say, Game of Thrones was like the anti-Gwen Einat show because it had incest and gore and dragons, and I'm like, what are you saying about people who like that show? Because I don't think they're all like, you know, pro-incest. But then I would always make the mistake, and this happened to me on Breaking Bad too. I'd be like, okay, I'll give it a try, and then I would see like the worst moment. Like, I'm like, okay, I'll watch Game of Thrones, and I saw that thing where they ripped the guy's spinal cord out. I'm like, nope.
I watched the first 3 seasons in like a 2-week span. I binged it, I consumed it all, and then the Red Wedding happened, and I was like devastated, and I couldn't watch it anymore. And I didn't watch it for however many years, for 4 or 5 years.
I mean, what a great episode of television. You can't ask for much more than that. Just a bunch of bloody, awful murders, and everything seems horrible, and then cut to credits. That's a great episode of TV.
Drink full and descend. The horses are white of the eyes and dark within. This is the water, and this is the well.
Twin Peaks coming back in such a strange and weird and singular form that was completely different from what it was on ABC in the early 90s, and then launching this sort of argument about like whether it's television or whether it's film, and Lynch kind of getting into the middle of it and being like, oh, we've made an 18-hour movie, Coop.
Twin Peaks: The Return was one of my other favorite TV experiences of the decade. Partially because I never thought I'd see David Lynch do TV again, but partially because I just want to watch people drink coffee and eat donuts and say weird, idiosyncratic things to each other. That's a great time, even if the TV's not on.
We hadn't had a movie from David Lynch that was that mindfucky in so long, that the fact that we got that, and it was so mindfucky, and it was so intense, and so alienating, to me was extremely exciting.
I always tell people, I mean, if you don't want to watch it, just watch episode 8.
It was the episode with the atomic bomb explosion, and it breaks into this new music Stan Brakhage kind of montage for 15 minutes or whatever that also is the origin of evil and good on the planet, or at least in the 20th century, and like is contributing to all of this mythology that is totally inexplicable and this mystery that should never be solved. And we still insist on solving it because I think people want logic and order, but they're looking to the wrong place if they want logic and order from David Lynch.
And then go from there. You can decide if you give a shit about it after that. But that, at least, I feel like, everyone owes it to themselves to see.
Just yesterday, I wrote up a 4.5 hour explainer about the entire series, and I love a show that can prompt that. Like that somebody could commit 4.5 hours to breaking down what the show is about, and then also still not find it to be definitive. I think that's a rarity in art these days, and something that David Lynch does that nobody else does.
Where to start with The Leftovers? The finest TV show of the 2010s?
As to the instantaneous disappearance of 2% of the world's population, your conclusion as to what happened, some 140 million souls, is I don't know.
And it's fantastic. Justin Theroux, Carrie Coon, Damon Lindelof's first big post-Lost endeavor. And it's depressing and hilarious and tragic and horrific and everything you could want in a show. It features an awful lot of sad people, which I tend to enjoy.
Would you stop tuning that guitar? You are 105 years old. Tell me exactly what you did with your life to end up here so I don't make the same mistakes.
Excuse me! But it's springtime, and I thought I might woo a few chicks.
Community's my favorite show of the decade, if not my favorite show of all time. Atlanta, kind of in the same vein as Community, is just a show that can be anything at any time, in any episode. I rewatched the Teddy Perkins episode. It still gets me every time. Like, it's so well made, so creepy and just wild, but also kind of haunting and sad and beautiful. I definitely prefer the week by week, but there's a place for binging in my heart.
What if this whole time I've been looking for Will? I've been chasing after something else.
Streaming is just becoming the new cable, and I saw somebody today tweet out, oh, it'll cost $110 or something to have all the streaming services, so it's like more expensive than cable ultimately. So I feel like streaming culture is in this weird way turning itself inside out and becoming cable again.
There are times where, like, it's the weekend, you have nothing to do, and they just drop a new season of BoJack, and you just have to consume it all. You don't want to stop, and it's so easy to because the episodes are so short, and they're just right there.
One thing I do think will persevere is the idea of long-form storytelling, because I do feel like people were so scared in previous decades to really commit to long-form stories on TV, and now that's been proven, and now it almost feels like we're turning things that should be movies into TV shows. So I think for better or worse, like long-form storytelling, TV becoming the dominant format of storytelling, I think is going to persevere. I think that's mostly positive because I think a lot of shows benefit from the sprawl, but it is interesting now that I'm starting to see criticism of things that have come out in the last 2 years that people are like, this would have been great if it was 2 hours, instead of 10.